So I'd just like to start off this review by telling you a little bit of a story, and I'm also using this as an appeal because I'd like to know if you are watching this video and you went to the Cineworld Unlimited screening of this movie last night. I'd like to know if you experienced the same problem, because for me, this movie didn't actually start until half an hour after the advertised time. And when I say it didn't start, I don't mean in terms of the trailers, I mean the screen didn't actually switch on until half an hour after, which is very, very strange. And then after that, we had audio but no picture, and then following that, once we actually did get picture, we got a trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was in Spanish. Why does a UK cinema have a Spanish trailer? I don't know. So The Girl in the Spider's Web is directed by Fede Alvarez and stars Claire Foy as Elizabeth Salander, who, after being recruited to steal back some tech that was given to the US government, it gets entangled in this massive web of conspiracies that is tied back to her sister, who she left back many years ago. So I'd like to start off this review by talking about the cast overall. I think the cast as a whole do a really good job. I think particular standouts to me were Lakeith Stanfield, who I can't wait to see in Sorry to Bother You later when it releases here in the UK. And there's also quite a lot of others who were really good standouts for me in this movie as well, especially Stephen Merchant, who, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Stephen Merchant, so, you know, I'll watch anything he's in. But he was also great in this movie. Now, I do have a problem with Claire Foy in this movie. She wasn't bad at all. She was great in this movie. You know, I think Claire Foy is a tremendous actress when you look at her things such as The Crown, or in Breathe, or in very recently First Man. I think Claire Foy is a brilliant actress, and I think she's going to do very well come awards season this year. However, I can't help but feel that she was ever so slightly miscast in the role of Elizabeth Salander. She didn't quite fit the role as well as, say, Noomi Rapace did, or as the original actress did in the original Swedish version of the film. She just didn't quite fit the role as well as those other two did. And again, she didn't do a bad job. She did a perfectly good job. She just didn't quite fit the role as well as I maybe thought she would have done. Now, this movie is mostly an action movie, and I will get onto that a bit later, but the action itself in this movie is very poorly executed, and I'm very disappointed in Fede Alvarez, who is a great director, to take this style of directing that is incredibly quick cut, that you can't see what's going on in these action sequences. It's horrendous to watch. It's a strain on the eyes. It's very similar, to give you a recent example, of Peter Berg's Mile 22. In the way he directed that film, and in particular directed the action sequences, this film takes a very similar route with Fede Alvarez's direction. It's very quick cut, it's very shaky cam, it's all over the place, and it's horrendous to watch. Now, this movie to me didn't feel like a Dragon Tattoo movie. Obviously, this is within the Dragon Tattoo series. This is The Girl in the Spider's Web. This did not feel like a Dragon Tattoo movie to me. It felt far too clean and far too sanitized to be a movie in that universe. In comparison to the David Fincher version, this looks like kindergarten. It was so clean cut, and it was just horrible to see that this is just not in the same universe. And to me, given the fact that this movie was so action orientated, I couldn't help but feel that this movie was pandering to modern audiences. This film really felt like that to me. It felt like that this studio was like, right, well, audiences of today are not going to enjoy the type of movie that a Dragon Tattoo movie should be. So therefore, we're going to change it and make it a bit more of an action movie, and people will like it more. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know. Audiences do not seem to be resonating with this film either. I know the critics most certainly weren't, and the audience doesn't seem to be either. The movie's not really making much money. So with that, I think they've kind of failed on that part, but actually pandering to the audience is a very weak move on the studio's part. Now, while this movie doesn't feel like a Dragon Tattoo movie, what it does feel like is a Bond movie. And I honestly would not be surprised if this movie was an unused Bond script, because it's no coincidence that this film is backed by MGM. So it's no coincidence that MGM probably had this script lying around for an unmade Bond film, and they took that script and put it into The Girl in the Spider's Web, because that's what it felt like. It was a very generic plot, very simple, and they basically took that, you know, it was a very Bond-esque plot with a very Bond-esque villain, and they took that and just made it into this Girl in the Spider's Web Dragon Tattoo movie. And that's what it felt like to me. It just felt like an unused Bond script, and that came off very obviously. Even the opening of this movie is reminiscent of Bond. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I mean, but it has a very Bond opening sequence. You'll know what I mean. Obviously, if you've seen a Bond movie, you'll know what that is. You know, this very over-elaborate, artistic opening actions, or not even opening sequence. It felt very, very like Bond. Also, the product placement is horrendous in this movie. It's just all over the place. It's so noticeable. I saw like main ones were Amazon, Lamborghini. You get like a couple of chases in a Lamborghini. And again, when have you ever seen that in a Dragon Tattoo movie? And also with that, you also get Sony, who are obviously the studio behind this movie, even plucking in with their own little product placements with a camera here and there. And it's just so forced and so obvious. And again, it's not even smart product placement. It's just in your face. It's there. And it's so obvious. And again, it was just so forced. It felt horrible. Also, Sony, you need to stop putting final shots in your trailers. It's ridiculous at this point. You've done it with pretty much every Spider-Man movie. You did it with Venom, and you did it here as well. The final shot of this movie, or pretty much the final shot, is in the trailer. It's ridiculous. You need to stop doing it. It's a stupid thing to do. You're so bad with your trailers, and I know I'm coming across as really negative and really harsh in this review, but it's just, have they not learned their lesson by now? Critics have told these people for such a long time, stop putting the final shot in the trailer, but they keep doing it. It's ridiculous. As you can tell, I was not a big fan of The Girl in the Spider's Web. Although I think the cast, for the most part, do a really good job in this, especially, like Lakeith Stanfield, Claire Foy, although slightly miscast, I still think she did a good job with what she was given to work with, and Stephen Merchant, all great in this film. But just overall, the action was terribly made, and this shouldn't have even been an action movie in the first place. This was an unused Bond script that feels like a weird Frankenstein combination of a Bond movie and a Mission Impossible movie. It's just ridiculous. This movie is a really bad representation of what a Dragon Tattoo movie should be. If you want to get into the Dragon Tattoo franchise, do not watch this movie. Go and watch the Fincher version. It's much better, and it's a much better representation of what this movie should have been. So did you guys see The Girl in the Spider's Web? Make sure you let me know all your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let's have a conversation about this movie. And also, if you're from Britain and you went to the Cineworld Unlimited screening of this movie, make sure you let me know in the comments. Did you have any of the problems that I discussed at the start of this video? Did you experience any of that? I want to know if everybody's was the same. And if that is the case, make sure you let me know. And as always, guys, if you want to see more movie reviews from me, be sure to subscribe. And I hope to see you guys again in my next video.